Yeah, welcome to another episode of Dev to Dev. Joining me today, we have Rory and Brad.
Hello.
Thanks for popping down. Okay, so would you like to start about telling us a little bit about yourselves and where you're currently on the course?
A little bit about my background. Well, I'm originally not even from the Manchester area, from Nottingham. I was doing a lot of sort of admin kind of work that was very unfulfilling. I could always sort of spot loads of errors in sort of IT systems that I was using and going, surely this could be done so much more. Anyway, so it just started to annoy me. I took some time off sick and then thought, perfect time to reset and start going on something I actually want to do. So that's why I'm here.
Okay, cool.
For myself, I am from Manchester. I spent most of my my working time in customer service roles and technical support and things like that. And before then, I was always interested in coding, web development from a young age. Probably around 13, 14, probably when I first, got my hands on a computer and was introduced to the internet. I was instantly, intrigued on how it all worked. Spent a lot of time hacking and slashing my way through WordPress themes, trying to recreate my favourite websites and things like that. So since then, I've always maintained an interest in wanting to become a programmer. Just my professional career didn't go down that route. Committed to properly doing this back in October last year. And since then I've been doing some online courses and things like that, but there's always been a resounding idea in my head to find a boot camp and go to boot camp. It was a no-brainer from what I'd researched on them, and here I am.
Yeah, I mean, I never trusted myself to just go off and learn it on my own from sort of online resources. I thought, no, I'm going to need a structure, and the structure is just great.
The passion's always been there for me to do that, you see, so I've always, this has always been one of my main interests. So it was easy for me to just do it for no reason.
Which is interesting because you've obviously both got quite different experiences prior to the course, and yet you're still like on the same.
Still here on the same track.
Like, yeah.
Similar point, yeah.
So what part of the course is it you two are currently on?
So we're both currently on back end 2, which is the sort of the third section, I think. And that's sort of focusing on, we're doing a lot of databasing and sort of server networking kind of things all in the background.
Cool. And so obviously you tried to teach yourself sort of coding before coming onto the course. You had no sort of prior background to it?
I had basically zilch, maths background. So I thought, I can get the logic. I can sort of understand this. Had a quick look at, the pre-course material. I did the taster course actually, and that just cemented it. I was like, oh yeah, this is great.
And despite that, Rory's still a much better developer than I am.
Well, that's irrelevant. That's just I pick some stuff up quicker. But you'll be better on the front end stuff. We've decided.
Cool. So you two, I get the impression, obviously know each other quite well. Have you paired before?
Yeah, we've paired a couple of times. We paired, I think, twice in the first block and a bit here and there since when we've been on the same track. But yeah, we've had fairly positive pairing experiences.
Cool. That's great to hear. Have you got like a favourite sprint that you've both done?
Cool. So favourite sprint was definitely emotional tweets. Because it involved much more real world kind of what felt more like real world programming. I was going off, I was taking data from one server, sending it to another server which would do some data crunching and give me back some insights. So I found that really interesting, and then we had to present it all in a nice front end, which was again sort of only sort of the second time we'd done that. So it brought everything together and I felt like, I've actually made something, which is quite good.
You can see how that could actually be applied.
Yeah, I could host it and someone else could just go use it. It was very good.
What was your favourite sprint then?
It would have to be also emotional tweets. I think that's the most advanced point that we get to, where we're able to create something that resembles a full stack without using a front end library, which is what we're going to go on to when we get to front end. But that basically, that involves everything that we've learned up to now, from a database, from the server, and then actually displaying something on the front end. You can really see how all those things are used and come together to create an actual project.
You're sort of like starting to build like an end-to-end application.
It just felt very real. That's what I liked about it. It was like, real world.
Yeah, cool. So what's your experiences of the developer pathway been? I understand you two have currently sort of recently joined the same cohort, right?
Well, no, we started off in the same cohort,
right.
Split off, we've both redone different blocks, and now we're back in the same cohort. So you redid core and I redid back in one, somewhat foolhardily, but I redid it, really cemented everything, so it's been really good. And the way it's separated is very nice. So it goes logically, you start off with your core skills, and then it's sort of slowly building up. I say slowly, it's a lot faster than you think it is when it's actually happening, but it's really good.
Yeah. So each section of the course is broken down into a 2-week block, and then you do a review at the end of that. How have you found that?
I found it really good. They just give you a couple of hours and say, do this. And you're like, oh, how can I do this? There's so much scope for what you can do that it's great. So you'll be speaking to people afterwards and like, oh, you did it that way. Oh, okay, well, I did it like this. And oh, that's so much more obvious. I've just written 50 lines of code and you've done 4. Like, come on. But no, it's really good because it really highlights what you're good at, what you're lagging behind on, this, that, and the other. So it gives you something to work on.
Yeah. I mean, as you said, I have been a beneficiary of being able to repeat a block, and for me, it was absolutely invaluable. It's a block that I really felt that I needed to repeat coming out of it. So having the opportunity to go back and do it, that resulted in me coming out the second time, knowing everything that I should have learned the first time around. With it being the core block as well, it's probably one of the most important things to go forward with. And you're
definitely our reduced king now, aren't you?
There's a lot of little tricks that I picked up the second time around. It's just really, really beneficial to be able to repeat.
Yeah, that's great to hear. It was interesting what you were saying as well about the satisfaction and sort of like getting to see the way other people approach problem solving and contrasting with yours.
That's the main benefit of pair programming. It's like, oh, I would just never have got to that. It's really nice to see it, and then I implement it, following that quite easily. Yeah, it's definitely a massive benefit to that. I can see why it's an ethos generally in business as well as on the course.
Yeah, for sure. I remember when I was on the course, I used to really enjoy sort of after the morning kata, sort of sitting down with other people on my cohort and seeing how they approached it compared to me. That was always quite fun.
Yeah, no, we have a great fun. I'm one of the victims of becoming a one-liner. How small can I make my code? How tight? So my line might be, 400 characters long, but it's one line. It's not, no, but I like making things small and efficient.
I used to look at code and, you used to want to be able to do that. Can do it now, but realise that, it's much more efficient to be able to just write readable code as opposed to getting stuck in the, the code wars method of making something really short. But when it comes to somebody else reading it, it's not really efficient.
Yes, if my katas, I will do it 2 ways. I will do the make it readable so I understand it, and then I will like, right, how can I refactor this and make it as ridiculous as possible?
Which I think is a useful exercise in itself, sort of, trying to approach problem solving in a couple of different ways, Both of you said your favourite sprint was the emotional tweets one. I remember watching your presentation on Friday, which tells us a little bit about
it was
what
a bit dramatic. I had a bit of an issue, but it was really good. The only problem was my inputs wouldn't take anything with images in properly. It wouldn't assess them properly, so it would just crash. So you had to find someone with a fairly tweet-heavy recent timeline. So Donald Trump and Kanye West come out very well.
Of course.
And of course they do. All they do is talk, and they're very emotional. Both of them, even politicians sometimes are emotional. And so my little program, you put in their Twitter handle, it goes up, it searches it, it returns their 5 tweets based on sort of what the Watson API brings back. So they're most joyful, most fearful, and a couple of others that escape my mind at the moment. But so it brought back what it decided was the best, and there's some unfortunate little errors in some of the, well, not errors so to speak, but the Watson API is a little bit lacking in some areas. And it decided that Donald Trump tweeting about a school shooting was, I think, 80% positive, like 80% joyful. Wasn't great, but Kanye West came out very well. Everything seemed to follow and make sense, and that was really good. It was really good to see it, like, oh, it's actually done what I kind of wanted it to do.
It's quite rewarding, isn't it, right? Yeah. You made yours responsive as well, hadn't you, right?
Yeah, mine, but that's just, I used a quick materialized library, and it was just nice and easy to set up everything. So it was, you could view this on a mobile if you wanted. It wasn't hosted then, but I've since fiddled with it, and it can now be hosted just fine. So it's great.
Cool. And for the benefit of the audience, can you tell us a little bit about what yours was?
Yeah, me and Rory initially started on the same projects, on the same sprint, on emotional tweets. For me, around halfway through, I noticed that there was a bit of a skill gap in terms of something from the previous block that was kind of, you know, required to be up to scratch on to be able to progress in emotional tweets. So at that point, we actually separated, and I went and focused on some other things. Still doing emotional tweets, but you know, just consolidating my knowledge on promises and asynchronous code and how that works. So I rebuilt the project from scratch myself. Didn't get to a point where it was presentable. I also took it home on the weekend, and I did a lot of work on it there. And just basically came out with a solid understanding of what the sprint was supposed to be and do, as opposed to actually creating the end result. But yeah, I learned quite a bit about taking information from an API, sending it to another API, and letting that API do something with it, getting the information back, and then presenting it how you want, using promises and asynchronous code.
And it was quite good not to have to interact with your own file system, which we'd been having to do before. We'd be going, getting something, saving it, pushing that up, coming back, saving it, and then presenting it. And now it's just like, no, just send that to there, and then great. So I found that really good.
You got any ideas for anything you want to do for projects?
I don't really know, because I've not seen what other people have done, and I need to go and see a few of them, and then I'll sort of work out what is, one, within my capability, and two, you know, what's going to be interesting to do. Because I definitely don't want to do a basic thing. I want to try something a bit fun.
I haven't personally, but I'm aware that the standard is really high, especially the last couple of them. You know, they've been VR projects and things like that, really advanced stuff. It's not something I'm thinking about at the moment, but we'll see.
But yeah, no, I look forward to seeing some of the stuff you two make.
Yeah, hopefully we'll have something interesting.
I'm sure you will. All right, well, yeah, thank you for your time, and yeah.